Thanks for joining us in our Tuesday Business News Report. It's now time to bring you the feature on the show today as we focus on the real estate sector. Now, building materials and labor costs have once again taken a further leap in the real estate sector following rising inflation and exchange rate volatility in the Nigerian economy, raising fears among prospective builders of even harsher times ahead. Already, manufacturers are passing the rising cost of raw materials to their customers, adding to concerns that inflation, which increased by 15.63% in December last year from 15.4% recorded in November, may put further pressure on housing. Construction materials such as cement, steel and finishes, as well as labor, have experienced a significant increase, as much as 60% in their prices, leading to a rise in developmental costs of commercial high-rises, offices, as well as other residential buildings. Now, joining me for more on this discussion, I have Tade Cash, co-founder Wealth Island Properties Limited. Thank you very much for joining us in our Lagos studio today, and it's a happy new year to you. This is our first interaction for the year 2022. What do you make of this fear for prospective builders right now, looking at even harsher times ahead? We've seen that skyrocketing inflation we've recorded so far, especially looking at sand, block, roofing sheets, tiles and a whole lot more. But the overruling sentiment is that when we have the likes of Ajaokuta Steel, Oshogbo Steel Rolling Mill and a whole lot more, we are now suffering some of the end parts of what shouldn't be if these projects or infrastructure were working. Your thoughts on the rising inflation of housing materials?
Okay, thank you very much. One of the things about our country today is that the cost of material for building is going up because it's about 60% of the totality of building. And so we have about 60% of cost of materials and 40% about on labor cost. Now, most of the materials we are using are being imported, and we can produce most of them here, but based on some certain things that is not fully known to most of us, is the fact that all that we use, most of what we use for construction are being imported. So it's affecting a lot of things. So inflation is going up. So as a result of that, the cost of materials are going up. If you have borrowed money to build an apartment, or you have done an off-plan development, for instance, where people have paid you a certain amount of money and everything just skyrocketed immediately. Most of the time, that's why you can find many a time there are a lot of abandoned projects, because now the price, not necessarily that some of these developers don't want to deliver on this project, but this is what happened. They could deliver on the project because what they projected, they don't have an accurate inflationary projection. So right now everything has changed, and it seems as if they are even running at loss, and they still need to deliver the project because people have given you the money. You have told them there is an agreement now that this is how much you are going to deliver on this step. So we have to look at some of these fundamental issues, because some of our issues right now about the hike in price and all of those things, they are self-made.
Because some of the prices that we've seen even between the month of January and now, take for example, iron rod has also changed. It's almost a weekly adjustment, and this is not a downward adjustment, this goes up. Now, how do you think this also has a ripple effect in terms of the cost of houses today? You made mention of off-site plans as well. Those are the ones that smart investors would go for, just because it is still at a fundamental stage of foundation, really, and the plan is just getting molded. But when you're working with wrong assumptions in terms of the valuation of such costs, it really is a big issue at the end of the day, bringing to the question of quality and then delivery on time. Now, in terms of this ripple effect on how it impacts on housing prices and also rentage as well, how do you see things going forward within this year 2022? Because just between January and now, we've seen some increments.
Yes, they're constantly, because we're on this field every single day, and many a time in our organization where the accounting department will come and the finance department will come and say, oh, we're buying this material, we bought it last week at this amount, this week it has already changed. Now, so two things are very constant. Number one is that the prices of housing are going to go higher. The houses of rent are going to go higher if things are not done differently. Now, because the biggest challenge for me is that ultimately the person that bear the brunt is the end users.
Exactly.
The end users are the one that are going to bear the brunt, because the developer is a businessman and is in business to make profit. Now, if I'm buying material in a higher rate, I'm also going to make my money by delivering ultimately, because if that doesn't happen, there's only one thing that will happen. People begin to use all sort of material that are not standard enough just to be able to still sell at a particular rate so they can also make money. Also remember, if that is done, it's the life of the user that is at risk. And so that is something that we need to look at, because if we don't look at all of those things, it's going to be the end users. And what is the essence of business? What is the essence of, even governance? It's about the people. So if you don't look at how is this thing going to impact on the people, and how can we make sure that it impact on them positively, in the long run, prices are going up per second.
Talking about the impact on the people, now let's look at the approach of Lagos State government, for example. Now, this is one of the forward-looking states in terms of the level of development that we are seeing here. What do you make of the model or the approach of the state government in terms of affordable housing, and then also looking towards rent being collected per month? Now, take, for example, an estate where I live, a two-bedroom apartment goes for about 1.7 to 2 million naira. Now, if an average Nigerian were to slash this volume of money into monthly allocations vis-a-vis their salary, that's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
How do you see things panning out, especially with this model the government is pushing for
two
monthly payments? Yes, this is what goes on in advanced clients, the US and Europe and a whole lot more. But do you think we can sustain that?
Yeah, we can't sustain it, because don't let us even go to the advanced nation. Let's go to African nations. As close as Togo, as close as Benin Republic. Every one of these countries run a rently income. They pay rently, they pay monthly. And so what that means is this: two things are going to happen. So many people are going to now start looking into what they earn, and they begin to look at your capacity to produce more, because this will happen many a time, because we live in, also we cannot disregard that we live in a religious nation where one of our biggest assets is hope. So many a time people often pay rent based on hope. They'll believe that, oh, I could gather my money from cooperative and pay the first rent. The second rent is God is going to do it. God will make it happen. But this is what happened. If you know that 30 days make one rent, something begins to change. Now, two things are going to happen is that some of the owners of the apartment begin to revisit, how much they collect from the tenant, or secondly, people begin to look at different things. But this is what happened. Monthly rent has a way of helping the people, number one, because even in Lagos, for many years, it has been part of the tenancy law, but most people never practice it. It's a fact that the law of Lagos State even favors the owner of the apartment if you earn your money monthly. Why? Because most of the time, when people pay you yearly, there is always a provision for a couple of months if the person is moving out. But however, if it is monthly, it says it's about 1 month. 1 month of notice if the person is paying monthly, because that's how you also have an advantage. However, the whole thing that we need to look into is this. People need to, when we talk about affordability also depends on the capacity of an individual. Because what is available to you may not be affordable to me. What is affordable to me may not be affordable to somebody else. So it's very relative. When we say something is affordable, okay, the same thing with apartment here. For the lack of time now, we have to wrap up our conversation. What do you think will be the outlook for the year 2022 in terms of the inflationary pressure we'll see in the real estate sector? Well, according to the World Bank says that right now, that 2022, Nigeria is going to be one of the highest inflation rates. However, this is what we need to do. People need to focus on certain things, because we cannot, based on how things are going in Nigeria, I think one of the things you need to do is to learn how to buy equity that can help you to begin to hedge against inflation, because this is what happened. Inflation is going on, but as an individual, how can you use inflation? Because inflation always have babies. If you know how to use them, you will benefit from them.
Thank you so much for your time on the Breakfast Show this morning, Tada Cash. We'll definitely keep our fingers crossed and have much more conversations as we see things go play out. The rise in inflation, exchange rate volatility, these are shocks that are beyond the average developer, and then we have to attend to it. Government also needs to revisit its model of approach in terms of affordable housing. Thank you once again.
Pleasure.